Welcome back to the now 7th part of my dual electronic power lever video. In the last part, card here, link in the description, we discovered some difficulties when manufacturing the actual levers. First, my center drill broke here in that hole, so there's a little sliver of hardened tool steel in there, and we will have to recover from that. Second, the two pieces that were for machining purposes, so I won't have to do everything twice, were glued together, separated prematurely while drilling these 12mm holes. So we have to do something about that too. Yeah, enjoy. First of all, I need some additional markings here for that remaining 12mm hole. That was the one where I broke the center drill. This time twice as much markings, because I will now have to work with two pieces and do everything twice. Then we have to finish that critical 12mm hole where the shaft goes through. And finally, we will have to machine that end here with a little pocket here for M2 screw head, and then a hole through it for the M2 screw, and a little cut here so we can actually clamp everything together around the shaft. I explained the detail of marking the pieces in the last video, so I'll just do it here. So first the center line, and then the position of the hole on the center line. As I mentioned in the previous video, the holes are not really critical. They are just to take off some material and make it look a little bit nicer. I also showed you in the last video how I visually center my center drill on the markings, and I've just done that here for this axis. And I've done that for the center line. You see that little bit to the right, that was my first imprint, and now I corrected that a little bit to the left. So we're right on the center line and we can center drill. Now comes the big moment, because on the other side is that sliver of hardened tool steel, and I just hope I press it out on the other side with the 5mm drill. Yeah, that seemed to have worked. And now I do exactly the same with the other part. I won't film that. I also showed you in the last video how I center, yeah, well, it's a little bit improvised, the 10mm drill here for the next bigger holes up to 12mm on my pre-drilled 5mm hole, just here by scratching until I scratch, or I have scratched exactly the same amount on the right side as I have on the left side. And we're off actually drilling that 10mm hole. And then we extend that to 12mm. I'm stupid. I have edges here, so I can actually use also a caliper, knowing the center of the hole and the diameter of the drill to align it, yeah, beyond just visual helps. And yeah, that's good enough. Second and last 10mm hole in that piece. And widening that to 12mm. that went especially smooth without any cutting oil. Now I will do exactly the same with the second piece, so adding 2 more 12mm holes. Next stop is the 1.6mm hole through here. I put the piece into the vise without any parallels or anything, just with a little stick out here, which I tried to keep as small as possible, just large enough so my chuck won't interfere with the vise or anything when I go down. As usual, I visually align my center drill with my markings, and this should be just perfect. Just a little test. Yeah, it looks right on this axis. A little correction might be required on that axis. Yeah, I guess we're pretty much centered now. Now let's drill. And yes, I'm on a much higher RPM now. Well, seems I broke the center drill again. It matters not. Let's try that again with the other piece. I already aligned it. Okay, that should be enough. I mean, we are just drilling 1.8mm. Okay, 1.8mm, hopefully not breaking the drill. And the drill is wobbling in there awfully, so let me correct that. If it's possible to correct it, maybe the drill is wobbly. Yeah, still a little bit wobbly. We'll see. Okay, things are starting to feel a little bit rough here, so just a drop of cutting oil. And we're through. Ooh. So I was a little bit nervous breaking that small drill here inside the hole, but yeah, the second piece went well. And now for a slight change of plans in the plan. It says I have to widen the top part of the hole, so the first 8mm to 2mm diameter. That was an error on my mistake. The M2 screw will need in the non-threaded part a little bit of wiggle room because, yeah, we will deform that part by pressing it together. So I will use 2.4mm here. And yeah, I have to be very careful not to go too deep. So that was supposed to be 9mm exactly. And I did that using the Z-axis advance of the mill, which actually has a scale. So each rotation here on the scale is 2mm. Now for the disaster recovery of the part with a broken drill tip in here. Yeah, I'm using that already a little bit messed up diamond drill here to yeah, drill down to it and widen the hole. So when we come from the other side with the drill, it will be hopefully just be pushed out. Interestingly, I don't know what happened. Oh, I see what happens. The drill bit is pushed in. Yeah. I just was very hopeful that, or it felt like I pushed that hard sliver of metal maybe aside into the material somewhere, but no, that wasn't the case. Yeah, and my drill bit is now deflected, but the hole is big enough, hopefully, so we can push out from the other side. To drill from the other side, I have, of course, to recreate all the markings here on that corner that were already here, but I didn't film that. You already saw this. And now let's try to drill a center hole without breaking the drill bit. That should be enough. Now comes the critical part, the 1.6 millimeter, hopefully pushing out that sliver of hardened tool steel. And I fear I'm at the end of the line. Okay, here goes nothing. And we're through. Whoo! Now that we have our hole in here, at the bottom where it will be threaded with M2 with 1.6 millimeters and at the top 2.4 millimeters, so the bolt has a little bit of wiggle room, it's time to mill out that little pocket here for the bolt head. For that I will first have to change my milling setup back to actual milling. I have my 6 millimeter end mill back in the mill and in the right chuck here. And I will just go down until I touch and then advance 2 millimeters down, and then I wiggle around until I hit that 5 millimeter mark here. And that accommodates nicely the screw head. The end is near. We have our pocket here. Now we need the cut so that we really get a C-clamp at the end for the shaft. And this will be done manually. Nothing to see here, just me sawing a crooked cut here at the top. And that's it. Remember when I said I was just sawing a crooked cut here? Yeah, I shouldn't have jinxed it, because in the second piece, for some reason, well, the reason being me, of course, the cut is really crooked, but it doesn't matter functionality-wise. The only thing left to do now is to cut a thread into the lower part, into the 1.6 millimeter hole with M2. I start with the number 1. And you can't see anything, can you? Then I continue with the number 2. And the finishing cut. And just in case, if you're wondering, the cut should be, 9 millimeters, barely 9 millimeters deep. So that should be okay. We could, of course, test that by screwing in an M2 screw and see if it goes in all the way. Not quite. And that's the piece with the crooked cut here. No, not quite working, but that's no problem. I simply extended the 2.4 millimeter part of the hole, by hand a little bit, just maybe half a millimeter or so, and recut the whole thing. And now the screw is going in nicely, but it shouldn't go in from this side, but from the other one. And yeah, perfect. Well, but for my crooked cut, which led to other problems like the threads here not reaching deep enough. As expected, the second piece with the straight cut went much easier. I had to rework also a little with the 2.4 millimeter drill here from the other side, but really only very little. And yeah, here we are. Don't look at that. And that's it for today. 2 levers here, and the handles will of course be attached there. Maybe I'll show you that in the next video. However, you might remark, and rightly so, that there are still 2 operations missing. First of all, the M6 thread here for actually attaching the handle, and then the radius here at the end. But I will do that in a later stage, because first I need that 5 millimeter hole, a non-threaded hole, to properly center that up for cutting the radius here on the mill. And secondly, to cut the radii on the mill, I will have to remove the vise and put on the round table. And I want to delay that as much as possible, because if I need the mill again with the vise on, I have to realign the vise, and you saw the video. I put a link in the description. That's a whole lot of work, and I want to avoid to repeat that if possible. Anyway, next time we'll back to POM, this time big pieces. Until then, bye.